Hi, and welcome to What the Phalange, the podcast where we watch every episode of Friends, discuss it, deconstruct it, and fan over it one episode at a time.
My name is Quinn, pronouns zir or they, them.
And my name is Emily, pronouns she and her.
This week we're talking about Season 1, Episode 13, second half of the first season. The one with the boobies, aired January 19th, 1995, written by Alexa Young and directed by Alan Meyerson.
This is the episode where Joey finds out his dad is having an affair with a pet mortician. Chandler sees Rachel's boobies and she seeks revenge. And Phoebe dates a psychologist. All right, so let's get into it. We are rolling. Rolling with the homies. No? Clueless?
Oh, right. Okay, so congratulations, Emily. We've made it to the second half of the first season.
Congratulations to you too, kind sir.
No, sure. So this is exciting. It's sort of like, I feel like we've reached a threshold and it's like, I don't know.
We said we were going to do a thing and we're doing a thing.
Yep, even when it gets really hard.
When it gets real hard. So that being said, if so far you are enjoying season 1 of this show, it is very, very, very important that you tell all of your friends about how much you love this show. And that you go onto iTunes and you give us a 5-star review. And maybe if you have $2 or maybe even $5 or maybe even $8 and you want to go to Patreon and become a monthly Patreon subscriber, that would be amazing. Because in order for us to continue and move on to season 2, which has some of the greatest episodes of TV ever known to mankind, humankind. I can't believe I even said mankind. Then you need to support us financially so we can make this podcast happen.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But definitely follow us on Instagram. Get your friends to follow us on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to find lots of ways in order to make this sustainable long-term because we really love the community that's starting to grow and build and kind of the conversations we're having. And we really feel like there's so much value in what we're doing. Even not just for ourselves, but I feel like we're a lot of people are just really enjoying the fact that we're going through this. We're going to just do the work and we're going to do it together. And
if you're listening to this, you're probably one of those people. So thanks.
Yes. Thank you for doing the work with us. But in all openness, when we started this project, Emily and I were we are definitely committing to the first season. So we're definitely going to get to the end of the first season. However, we are now starting to assess and see if it's going to be viable for us to continue doing it. And so we on the back end are trying to find ways that we can make money off of the situation. And also are trying to find ways that it makes it more efficient for us to execute making the podcast, because right now it's a large amount of our time. Anyway, but we're excited. So the point is that we need to start really trying to get the podcast out there. So send us to a bunch of friends. We're going to start Instagram campaign soon to try to get more followers.
Okay, if you're listening to the show, you like Friends, and which means that you probably have friends who like Friends.
Yeah. All friends watch Friends with Friends. Yeah,
and also if you're listening to the show, you're probably someone into some form of queer feminist stuff things, some sort of anti-O politics, which means you probably also have friends who are into that thing. So think of a Venn diagram, the friends who watch Friends and the friends who do anti-O things, and then notice your friends that cross into that little center part of the Venn diagram and send our podcast to all those people.
Yes.
On Instagram, I will post you an image of our Venn diagram.
As you were saying this, because the whole time Emily was creating little circles with her hands and then pointing, and I'm just thinking, how we now have a YouTube channel, guys, and I'm really looking forward to when I finally convince Emily that we're going to put up filmed versions of our podcast, and so that everyone can see her hilarious little hand gestures.
I'm embarrassing. Oh my god. Anyways, moving on. What else do you want to talk about, Quinn, before we get started?
Well, first of all, if no one has noticed, which you probably have, look at our new brand colors.
We got new colors. We rebranded.
Aren't we so cute and pretty?
This was like a collaborative effort between Quinn and I, and like we actually feel really good about the art, which is like pretty wild because we are siblings, and it's very, very rare that we 100% agree on something, and we actually 100% agree on this. So it was magical when it happened.
And now we have stickers in the mail.
Yeah, and we're gonna have mugs soon. Quinn doesn't know this, but
do they have nipples on them?
I need mugs. No, I hate this idea. Okay.
Emily didn't know that I put up the poll question on our Instagram of should we get mugs that look like boobs and put nipples on them for our merch.
Like Roger says.
Which, by the way, I think like 80% of people were like, yes, which I was very grateful for. But no, Emily does not support this, so...
I disagree.
Yeah.
I would rather have a mug that has our awesome logo on it.
Yes. Okay. So, initial first impressions of the episode, Emily.
My initial first impressions of this episode is that there's actually not a lot to unpack, which I feel like every episode I kind of start saying that, and then we end up unpacking a bunch of shit. But for today, I really feel that way. Like, this to me is like a good, classic, like, homey friends episode. You know, like it's cute. There's a lot of great jokes. They start diving into the whole Chandler makes jokes because he has intimacy issues and a whole bunch of other issues, which I really love. They actually like move the focus away completely from Ross in this episode, which they basically haven't done yet. I don't think
there's been an episode where he hasn't been quite central to it.
Yeah, exactly. Monica's not very central in this episode either. And so like the whole central story is mostly about Joey. Yeah. And it's like, this is his story. And, you know, Phoebe had her story, right, with the David. And so now I like that Joey's getting a story.
And I find Joey really shows up in such a great way. I love him in this episode.
I love him in this episode too. It's like when we watched that episode where Joey like said that thing about Phoebe in the twister position, I was like, oh my god, I hate Joey so much. And I felt sick because Joey honestly has been my favorite male character on Friends. Like, I think Ross is like super jealous and manipulative. I think Chandler like for sure redeems himself throughout the arc of the show. But, like, to me, Joey is, like, a consistently good friend. Yeah. Like, he just, and he, even though he's kind of dim-witted, is what I'm going to use. I don't know why I'm speaking this way. But he's dim-witted. And I think that, like, they still make him show up as, like, a responsible human who cares about the people in his life, and you see that again.
Yeah, his character is all of the very positive qualities of him are very much on display in this episode, and it's a reminder of why he's such a lovable character. And I think that
good self-reflecting in this episode too, you know.
Yeah, and I think that and I feel like we'll get further into it as the episode moves forward. But I agree with you. I feel like this episode is like there are the issues in it that are there, and we're going to obviously get into them because we always do. But
you always find more issues than I do, and I'm like, oh, damn, you're right. I have rose-colored glasses when it comes to Friends. Like, I love the show so much that sometimes I don't want to talk about the things that I don't like about it, you know? So 3 things you want to talk about.
Okay, first of all, I want to talk about the hair versus the outfits in this episode, and a theory that I am starting to come up with, and anyway, we'll get into it.
Wow.
And then I want to talk about men being portrayed as being able to be physically close and affectionate with one another in TV shows.
Wow, we want to talk about very different things.
That's good. Sorry. Usually we want to talk about the same things.
That's true.
And then I want to talk about psychoanalyzing people and like the connotations around that and like needing consent to do that.
Yeah.
And then bonus, 4th thing I want to talk about is Chandler's parent being queer.
Great. Okay, perfect. I also want to talk about psychoanalyzing people and consent around that. The other thing I want to talk about is the moment when you realize your parents are people too and like have flaws and have stuff going on in their lives. Along with, oh my God, I have lots of things to talk about. I also want to talk about basically the way in which it's normalized for men to have affairs, but not normalized for women to have affairs, and how I would feel if the situation was different, if it was Joey's mom with a mister instead of a mistress, and like Joey's
or mistress.
Yeah, or mistress, but like no, actually because it's different.
Yeah.
And like how people probably wouldn't feel the same, and how there'd be some like slut shamey stuff going on. Anyways, so we're gonna talk about that, and then I also want to talk about being naked with friends.
Oh, cool. Okay, so cold open, which I think it is such a great cold open.
It's such a friends thing.
Yeah, and it's such a great way to set up this thing that's just gonna run through the entire show. Like,
and it's not even a main plot point. Like it is a main plot point of the show because it's called the one with the boobies,
right?
But like it's not even very important.
It's not central.
Yeah,
you know, it's like really what's like the main drama, I guess you could say, that's happening is like Joey navigating this like really big thing with his parents, and then you just have this like this cold open that just starts like this domino effect of some like little like hilarious rivalry within like the friend group.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so Chandler walks into the apartment like everyone is always doing.
They never lock that front door. It's always opened. I mean, it's like people are just walking in and out of that house all the time. Like everyone, they've determined that Joey and Chandler have a key to the apartment too.
And also like, okay, in this episode we see Joey cooking for himself for the first time. We've seen him make himself a sandwich in the past. But like, we know that Chandler doesn't know where any cooking equipment is in his own place because he's borrowed a pan from Monica. So clearly he eats every meal at Monica and Rachel's. Like, he's there all the time. And he's obviously going in, getting a juice box.
Is it a juice box?
Yeah, it's a juice box.
Oh, that's
which
so
I thought was
Chandler.
hilarious.
Yeah, and he walks in. Okay, so this isn't to, like, victim blame Rachel for being upset that Chandler walks in. Yeah. But it's just, like, it would be like living in a house with 6 people and walking out of the bathroom naked and not expecting someone to see you. Like, it's just, like it's kind of like people are always in the house. Like, it would be different. My only scenario would be the door was locked and she thought she was, like, alone in the apartment. Like, Monica left and the door was locked and then she, like, went to take a shower and had plans to walk around naked in her house.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like there's certain scenarios where it's, like, very possible that, like, like that she didn't expect people to be in the house. Whether it's like maybe they locked the door and Chandler used his key. Then like, is that valid to use the key at any time? We don't know.
But she doesn't say you just come in like you know, with your key. She says you come in without knocking.
Right.
So it's like,
I think it's so valid for her though to have like this, like, be angry in the moment and to be like, this is ridiculous. Like, why do we have this set up? You know, like, I have zero privacy
in my own house. Yeah, I can't even walk from my bathroom to my bedroom without worrying that, like, my neighbor is going to walk in on me. You know?
To be fair. Okay. I do feel like maybe Chandler, when he was trying to tell her to cover up her boobies, her nipular area, I think that he probably should have maybe not been staring at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, that's not valid.
Yeah. And then, okay, I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I really like the blanket she uses to cover her boobs.
I know. Instacart affiliate link in our description box below. If you sign up to get groceries delivered to your door, and sometimes in as soon as an hour after ordering them, we will get a kickback for no additional cost to you. So, meaning that you will be supporting our show by signing up for a service that is great for you.
You'll support our show by buying groceries. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. Also, my favorite thing about Instacart is that unlike just ordering groceries for either like pickup or delivery from like Loblaws or Provigo, the person who's picking out your groceries will text you. And so if you have like something that you ordered isn't there, they're not going to just pick a random things to like subsidize it with, or not subsidize, to like replace it with. They will text you to confirm whether or not it's a good thing, and you can text them back. And so you're basically in communication with the person as they're picking out your groceries, which I think is like an awesome part of Instacart. So I think this is like a really great option for people like us who live in a household where there's so many different food allergies and restrictions that it's like when you're buying a specific item, you're literally buying that item. You can't have a replacement, or it can't be any replacement. So anyway, Instacart, great. Sign up and you'll be supporting us. So use our affiliate link in the description box below. We're in the Central Perk.
And Phoebe is dating a psychologist named Roger.
And in this first scene, he is very, very cute. You know, he's so, like, the way that he, you know, Phoebe's being her, like, dorky self, and he's like, tell them the story, blah, blah, blah. And then she basically gives it away. And he's like, well, that's pretty much it. But then he's like, but you tell it so well, sweetie. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're just, like, so supportive.
That is cute. I really like that Phoebe says, like, now go away so we can talk about you. Because, like, it's so blunt, Phoebe, but also, like, so something that, like, I've thought before.
Right.
You know, like, when, like, you're, like, with someone that you're, like, into who's in the room, and then you're, like, what? Like, you're really happy they're there, but then you're also kind of happy when they leave because you get to, like, talk to all your friends about how awesome this person was. Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah. And, okay, I just think it ironic because at the very beginning of the show, like, in this first scene, she's like, he's great because he's not too shrinky.
Yeah, I know. I wrote that too.
And then literally, like, 2 seconds later, he's, like, psychoanalyzing her friend, and she doesn't see that, you know?
Yeah. I put a note here that I found it... I have so many things to say, but I really like Rachel's outfit in this scene. She's wearing, like, a jean shirt, and she's got her cute little apron again, and just her skirt, and it's, like, a great outfit, and she's got her hair up in, like, the classic Rachel way.
Yeah. And these are not her boobies. These are her breasts. Looking for a bit of more of a subject change.
Yeah, that was great. And in the DVD version, version, Monica goes, I always liked bazoombas. Which is hilarious.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great line that they cut out. It's not too bad.
But then we get the first moment of, like, this becomes an ongoing joke for the rest of the 10 seasons, which is Chandler has intimacy issues and he makes jokes in order to bypass those issues or not have to deal with them. And this is, like, the one moment where Raj does, like, what I feel is a pretty decent analogy. Like a psychoanalysis. Everything else he does is kind of medium.
Yeah, but he's also, like, super rude, being like, textbook. It's
like,
fuck you.
Yeah, and he says,
I am not a textbook. Also, I am a human being.
He also says, I wouldn't want to be there when the laughter stops. Like, that's so dark. Oh my god.
It's so dark. But seriously, though. I do think this is the beginning of, like, Chandler being psychoanalyzed. And I find it interesting because within his story arc, this is, like, he does start to recognize it and understand it and unpack it. Like, he does start to, like, recognize it and unpack it over time. And I find that really interesting because this is kind of like the beginning, and they're, you know, Roger's right on point. He doesn't like this at first. And to be quite frank, like, even if it is true, like, this is not an appropriate place or time to, like, share that with someone, even if you want to do it out of, like, I think this is information you need to know about yourself, you know? Like, I just want to say that I think the best line in the show is rock, hard place, me.
Yes, so good.
And it's a super memorable line, I think. Yeah.
Joey's dad arrives. Robert Costanza, who's in a lot of movies from the 70s and 80s. And so he's actually only ever shows up in Friends once. as Joey's dad. But
Yeah.
as many people might know, Friends had a spin-off show called Joey that only lasted like 3 seasons before it was canceled. And Joey's dad actually appears in that show again.
Oh, really?
So yeah, he comes back in that show only. We will move on to the next scene.
Thank you.
Chandler and Joey's apartment. Joey's dad is talking to someone on the phone. And obviously, being, making the most sense, Joey thinks that he's talking to his mom because he hears him say, "I love you." And then this, to me, is my favorite line of the show, where he looks at his dad and he's like, "Did you know this isn't Mom?" Which is like the most innocent moment of Joey. He's just like, "Did you know this random lady that you're saying I love you to is not my mom?" It's just like, oh, my sweet summer child.
Yeah, it's such a great line. There's some really good lines in this.
Yeah.
So,
I also wrote a note that in this episode, Joey, I think, exclusively wears turtlenecks.
Yeah.
He wears a lot of turtlenecks in this episode. And I think it's really cute that when he finds out that his dad is cheating, his instinct is to make a bunch of tomato sauce.
I know. Your tomatoes are burning.
But it's funny because
you're one to talk.
Then Joey's dad, who is also Joey, says that he's in love with 2 women and that this is a struggle for him. I want to talk a little bit about, let's say this is Joey's mom. And Joey's mom was telling him that she was dating another man for 6 years. I feel as though we as an audience would shame her in a way that we do not shame Joey's dad.
Yeah.
Not saying we, me and you.
Yeah, no.
But the general public would be like, how dare this woman? And not saying that what he does is valid, but by the end of it, you're kind of just like, all right, well, I guess it's fine. You're like, that's okay. He lied to his wife for 6 years, but she kind of knew about it and was okay with it, so it's fine.
Okay, yeah. So let's take this a step further. Okay? So maybe taking the audience perception away even and just consider would there have been the episode written where if it was Joey's mom being cheating on his dad, would the outcome of the show have been the same where everyone's totally fine?
Probably not.
Exactly. And I think that that's also something to consider, that this storyline, they probably wouldn't have run it the other way around.
Yeah, because there's a lot of acceptance around this idea that men kind of need sex, or men are boys will be boys and they need to just kind of run around, and it's part of being a man. They need to sleep with more than one person.
Yeah.
And that thing is not the same for women.
And also women are only allowed to be owned by one guy.
Yeah, for sure. That's a totally other aspect of it too. And this idea.
And otherwise she's a floozy.
Yeah.
That's right. Floozy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a word. A floozy. Oh my god. Second time I'm speaking British.
What's happening over there?
Very embarrassing. Okay. Anyways, sorry to anyone who actually is British listening to our show. I think that the idea that he's in love with 2 women and the woman being fine with that is very much not a thing that would happen the other way, because there is this idea that men can't share women. One, which is which is not just our own feminist analysis. It's literally history. Men could have multiple wives, but women cannot have multiple husbands, And so it's
yeah, and we're still built into a structure that is based on women catering to men.
Yeah.
And we can't separate, that is the patriarchy. We haven't separated ourselves from that yet. Mm-hmm. We're not free of that. And so it's continuously implied in most things that this is a thing that we have to actively separate ourselves, or actively unpack, or actively criticize, or actively bring to to light whenever we can see it, because it so easily passes beneath the radar because it's so structured into our thought processes and acceptable and normalized. Mm-hmm. That's why we're doing this show, guys.
Yeah. But on the flip side, and I'm gonna take us for a ride right now. Okay. On the flip side is that now that we find out that Joey's mom knows about the affair, she's okay with the affair. In fact, she's happy about the affair because it means that he's more attentive to her. Is this not a weird, skewed form of being in an open relationship?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, next scene. Monica's apartment. Joey's talking about how his dad is leading a double life and how he kind of wishes he was a spy and not just
instead of cheating on his mom. So much cooler.
This really sucks for Joey. Like, I can't even imagine being in that situation of, like, finding out that your parent is having an affair and having to basically choose the side of one of the parents. Like, luckily in this situation, like, both parents are happy and good at the end of it.
Yeah.
But, like, in his current moment, he's like, okay, do I betray my mom by not telling her that my dad is having an affair, or do I betray my dad by telling my mom that my dad is having an affair? To me, the answer is obvious. You for sure tell your parent that your other parent is cheating on them. Mm-hmm. To me, I think that's like, otherwise it's like lying by omission.
And Joey executes it super well. Like, he is, again, just like the person in this group who, like, knows how to be a friend. He knows, like, the code. He knows how to execute it. He knows how things should be played out. Like, he is direct with his dad. He tells him that he has to go tell his mom or else he will. Yeah. And, like, and that's how it should be done. You should be giving your friend, your whoever, the opportunity to, like, be the one to, like, redeem themselves and be the bigger, like, be the person. You're basically just holding them accountable to being their best self. And if they aren't, then you're also going to protect the person that they're hurting. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like, he just knows how to do that and hold people to being their best selves. And I think that's really admirable of his character. It's like the best part of Joey.
Mm-hmm. And then he says this line, he's like, or someone says the line, why can't parents just stay parents? And I find it interesting because, like, so Quinn polled.
Yeah.
Quinn polled, and people said different answers of, like, how old were you when you realized that your parents are, like, their own people, their own humans. Someone said 12, someone said 17, and two people said early 20s. So whoever found that out at 12, I want to know your story.
I know. Yeah, no, it's so true. I feel like it's healthier when you realize it younger.
Yeah, for sure, because I think that, like, I definitely put my parents on, well, our parents, on a pedestal for, like, a really long time. And, like, finding out that my parents have flaws, like every human has, because no one is perfect. It's like, it was a little bit shocking, you know, this idea of, like, oh, I could be angry at my parents for things that they did. And, oh, I could be, you know, like, it's this kind of, like, why are you being so human?
Yeah, or like, just, like, disagreeing with your parents' perspective or point of view or
values
or how they choose to parent or how they're reacting to something. Mm-hmm. You know, like, that, you know, your parents struggle with, like, their own mental health issues. They have their own baggage. Mm-hmm. What they say is not the word of God. It's only coming from their experience. Sometimes it could be coming from a really selfish point of view. It could be, you know, and being able, like, that, like, I think it's so important that at a young age, you're able to realize that you can be critical of your parents and that everything they do is not just a reflection of either perfection or...
Yeah.
And if you aren't fitting into it, then you are not, you know, then that you are at fault, you know?
I think for me, it was also about early 20s. Like, I think it was more when I got a little bit more integrated into the queer community. Actually, probably more around, I'm going to tell you the exact year. I think more when I was 19, because during the 2012 student strikes, I remember for the first time really disagreeing with my parents. They've now come on the total other end of the spectrum and totally are on the side of, like, you know, the Red Square movement and not raising tuition. But
with a lot of work from 3 dedicated children and a couple of dedicated
sibling-in-laws.
Or, children-in-laws.
And so, children-in-laws. And so, like, I think that, like, when that first happened, when I first had those arguments with them, I remember being like, no, but how can they disagree with this? Like, this is just so, like, these are values that I have. Why don't they have the same values as me? And I think that was, like, a very weird moment. And then it just went downhill from there. Mm-hmm. And now, like, I'm really close with the parents again. But it's just, like, it was just one of those weird moments where, like, now I was close to them a lot when I was a kid, but I was close to them in, like, a parent-child way. And now I feel like I'm close to them from, like, an almost level playing field kind of way.
Yeah.
Which I don't think... Which has been, like, really good and valuable, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think part of the point of having kids is to also, like, recognize that you're going to have to, like, learn and grow from them.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to fucking rock your world.
Okay, anyways, yes. So, basically, Chandler can't stop staring at Rachel's breasts, which is not valid at all in any way, shape, or form. But it's just like, let's just move past it because, you know, whatever. There's enough of that. But I think that... Ross says a great line here. And Ross doesn't say very many lines this episode. He's not a big character in this episode. But he says, we're all adults here. Which is like, you think that Ross is going to say something Ross-ish. He says this line. He says, we're all adults here. Since you saw her boobies, you have to show her your pee-pee. Which is... hilarious.
Such a good line.
So good. And then
tit-for-tat.
Yeah, Rachel goes, yeah, tit-for-tat. And then he goes, I'm not showing you my tat, which is so good. This writing is like incredible. Like so fucking good.
Alexa Young, we applaud you.
We applaud you, my friend. And then I also wrote that Rachel's outfit here is really cute with the jeans and the long white sleeve sweater shirt thing and the little rose on it.
Do we know who won the outfit this week?
Okay, so Phoebe's outfit in the coffee shop, in which she's wearing a like white, somewhat opaque blouse on top of a dress, is one of the winners. Then our next winner, actually it is the winner. It's the highest one. And then the winner after that would be Rachel and her weird jean jacket vest thing that comes up way too often in the show.
It's actually an exact tie between that one and her jeans and white shirt.
That's true. Yeah. And her jeans and white shirt gets the other winner. The one with the like dark rose on it, which is cute. I really like this outfit. It's an outfit I would wear.
I would say they're tied for second place. And then third place is Joey's outfit when he is trying to get the couch back together and is talking to his mom.
The velvet turtleneck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Velvet. Remember? Okay. So then Raj shows up to the apartment and everyone's not happy about him. Because, first of all, we cut to a scene in which Raj has now said to Ross that he unconsciously married a lesbian because, basically, he married her because on some level he knew she was a lesbian. Which is, like, the most obnoxious thing for a psychologist to say. And it's obnoxious for two reasons. One, because he has not met Carol. He has no way of knowing who Carol is. So he just assumes that, like, all queer people's queerness presents itself in the same way. So that's one assumption he's making. And the second thing he's saying is that he's just being a dick to Ross because even if, like, just, like, Ross is not in a psychologist's office. Like, dive into this thing if you're in a psychologist's office. But, like... It's such a weird assumption to make. Yeah.
Also, to quote Ross in the first episode, she didn't know, so how should I know?
Exactly.
And there's so many wrong things about it.
But then Chandler gets his vindication because he was like, I don't really like Raj. And I was like, oh yeah, he's okay. And then as Chandler walks away from Ross, he like triple taps him on the shoulder. Yeah. He's like, and walks away.
which is a verbal cue for "I told you so."
Yeah, oh my god, such a good verbal cue. Non-verbal cue.
But again, the writing in this situation where it starts off and it's like, drops you into the middle of like a heightened kind of conversation that's happening. You can sort of like piece together what's happened. And then Rod is telling him that maybe which 10% of you on the polls agreed, that he married someone to make Monica feel better. And then somehow the conversation evolves, and then Monica is on Rod's side, angry at Ross for trying to like suck up to the parents and make her look bad in some way. And then you get Ross, who in the end is like, hey, I married a lesbian to make you look good.
Yeah.
And it's just so well done.
Yeah, it's super well done.
Yeah.
And then when he's leaving the apartment, well, Rachel's breaking down about her weebles.
Emily, you need to sing the song.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. How did you not know that song? It's like
I did, but I completely forgot it. It's just so good. It makes me so happy.
I always sing it. Like, literally, how have you not known this?
Oh, that is a thing you do.
I'm always walking around the house singing this song.
Okay. A little exaggeration.
Okay.
But you definitely, when something doesn't fall, like a
whenever
mug...
something doesn't fall, or whenever something is, like, precarious, or whenever... Sometimes I'll even say to my yoga classes when we're, like, rocking back and forth in, like, happy baby pose, I'll be like, we both wobble, but they don't fall down. Okay, whatever, I'm a nerd, it's fine. Anyways.
I love it.
They're leaving to go see a movie, and Raj says to Monica this to me is, like, the worst of all the lines he says. He goes... Easy on those cookies, Mon. They're just food. They're not love.
Fuck you, Raj.
Fuck you, Mon. Eat as many cookies as you want to eat. Like, oh my god.
Also, did you notice that they're not eating the cookies that Monica was making before? They're actually eating Fig Newtons.
Which means they already got through the other cookie batch. It's amazing.
My presumption is that they ate the cookie dough.
Oh, nice. Oh my god.
And they're now eating Fig Newtons.
Oh, man.
Or they were on set and it wasn't real cookie dough.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But, dare to believe.
Oh, look. It's the woman we ordered. Ronnie is special. She's got some special outfit stuff going on here.
She's great.
Yeah. Cheese Nip?
Her character is just, like, so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It kind of makes me wish that she was in more episodes.
Yeah. She's not.
But
spoilers.
We find out that she's a pet mortician.
Yes.
And carries around cheese nibs.
Yeah.
She's very sweet, a little naive.
In case you were wondering, I looked this up. Pet morticians are real people.
We're gonna link, Emily found this video. We're gonna link it in our show notes.
About being a pet mortician.
Mm-hmm.
And... like, I think what she says is a little bit exaggerated when she's like, most of the time, people just want their pets laying down. But, like, every once in a while, you'll get them, like, catching a frisbee, like, playing with their tail. But, like, from what I read, the only research I did for this podcast was pet morticians. I looked into it, and more often than not, people just get their pets cremated. Mm-hmm. And if they're putting them into a position, it's more a taxidermist that's actually going to do that than the pet mortician themselves.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like a little bit.
Yeah, I feel
legit.
like Alexa Young didn't fully understand what pet morticians versus taxidermists do. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, Joey says, I don't care how old you are, as long as you're under my roof, you got to play by my rules.
I think 80% of, it was 78% of people that answered our polls on Instagram said that they've had to parent their parent.
That's so funny. Probably I've had to.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah. Mostly with mom and just telling her to have someone help her move furniture and not just do it on her own.
Oh my god.
Go to my room. That's all I want to say for that scene. Cute.
I think that the next scene, when they're on the pull-out couch together, is really cute.
Yeah, Joey's doing some good old-fashioned self-reflecting. He's wearing his underwear, which he never does when he sleeps, which is an ongoing joke in this show.
Yeah, it is, actually.
And he's like, you know how I'm always seeing girls end to end? And they have like a whole conversation around basically Joey sleeping around and if he's just going to end up like his dad, which he's worried about. Joey having this conversation with Chandler where he's worried that he's going to end up like his dad is like a pretty real conversation.
Okay, there's a few things that I want to like touch on in this. Is that like very often, and we see this in Joey. Joey, like he says, he sees girls on top of girls. Probably
Are they end to end or stacked like pancakes?
Probably both. And and the thing is that like he really doesn't treat these people very well. Like the majority of the time, like they're all just very like disposable sex to him. You know, there is a little bit of progression in Joey's character, and there are times where he recognizes this later on. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that there is this narrative in the world that like boys will be boys, and then when they meet the right woman, they'll change for her
and settle down.
And she will make him a better person. Mm-hmm. As though like the magical act of like falling in love with someone is enough to change these deeply embedded habits and character aspects of yourself. Instead of like starting to unpack them before you meet someone that you actually want to settle down with. Mm-hmm. And what that kind of does, it plays into the narrative of like women, their responsibility is to like be rehabilitation centers for men or to make men better, or like them being like the emotionally competent person and is going to coach their partner forever. Is also going to be like the only emotional support for their partner.
And yet women all the time get this like reputation of being so emotionally unstable.
Lol. And so I guess in this scene, first of all, I think it's like really cute to see like these two guys having pillow talk together.
Yeah, it's so cute.
And I guess what I want to say is that like if you're someone that identifies, like no matter what gender you are, if you're someone that identifies with what Joey is saying, then I guess it's like that's something to consider, that this is something that you have to work on before you actually find someone that you want to be in a relationship with. Because the reality is that you are setting yourself up to fail in that relationship. You're also setting yourself up to really hurt this person that you're going to be in a relationship down the road with. Mm-hmm.
And then you also wanted to bring up the fact that these two boys are lying in bed together.
Yes!
Which is true. It doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. And
like, this is another example of Joey being very secure in his masculinity. And it comes up all the time, in which like Joey's like he even says in this episode, he's like, oh, I can't sleep with underwear. And then, you know, Chandler, who we just found out has intimacy issues, you know, says like, well, you're gonna, which like, to be fair, like, you know.
Yeah. Like, to be fair, if we slept in the same bed, I'd probably prefer if you wore underwear.
Yeah, like honestly, if you're ever gonna sleep in the same bed with someone you're not, you know, sleeping with, it's probably nice to wear underwear. But
courteous.
I'm courteous. But then like Joey goes to hug him and Chandler's like, come on. Like he's like, no, you know, and this is another moment where Joey is like showing that he's sensitive and he's comfortable with being in bed with a man. He doesn't even think twice about it. He's like, Chandler and I will sleep on this futon. Like, you know, whereas Chandler's like kind of like less comfortable with it. And you see this insight into Joey's secure masculinity and Chandler's intimacy issues. Yeah. Like combine into one.
Yeah, but then also...
And Chandler's internalized homophobia.
Exactly. And that's the part that I was gonna... And then like that interweaving into like just earlier, like when they were dividing up the bedrooms, you know, Chandler was saying that it was weird that, here, I'll show you to my bedroom, isn't followed by... what is it not followed by? It's...
No thanks, it's late.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, again, making jokes about the fact that Chandler can't get women to sleep with him. That's like in quotation marks again, because that's like the way it's viewed, right? And Joey does. He sleeps with so many women. And it's sort of like that being a marker of someone's like masculinity and ability to feel comfortable in their masculinity and like be able to like hug another man and not feel threatened.
Right, because he sleeps with so many women that there's no doubt in the world. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I just want to say that it doesn't matter who or how many people you sleep with, it's not a token of your masculinity.
Anyways, okay, moving on.
Moving forward.
So yes, moving on. We have a moment where Chandler Bing, it's time to see your thing. Rachel is wearing her denim vest thing again, and she walks into the bathroom and pulls the curtain open, expecting to see Chandler, and it is Joey Tribbiani in the shower. And she goes, "You were supposed to be in there with your thing." And Chandler says, "Sorry, my thing was in here with me." Yeah, so then... Did we want to talk a little bit about, like, the nakedness of being with friends and stuff like that? Because,
well, you did, so...
Well, like, I think that... So, before this episode started, Quinn and I were, like, talking about, like, this isn't very consensual. But, like, it's, like... Well, we did say that. We said, basically, like, if you were to take a look at this and, like, not know the friend dynamic, it could feel very not consensual. And depending on people's boundaries and what people express and, like, you know, maybe they were in a situation where they didn't feel comfortable with this, like, that's one thing. But from the general vibe of the group, like, it becomes this ongoing, like, sneak a peek thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, they're all comfortable with it, they're all in on it, and it's, like, this big kind of...
Well,
joke.
No,
it's like feels like
comfortable, but they're comfortable. It comes across as people are comfortable enough. Like, I think that the most upset person was Rachel, like by far.
But then she like feels like, you know, she can get her revenge, and she kind of is laughing more at it.
Yeah. I think I was reflecting on this, and I think that the dynamic that they have, I guess, kind of like across the hall, there is this sort of like playfulness that exists.
Yeah.
I think that if Ross was included in this, it wouldn't go over well. Like, I don't think Ross would have, I think it would have been not...
It's true. This is definitely like a Monica, Rachel, Joey Chandler thing.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it's totally that, like, and that's kind of a relationship thing that comes up a lot throughout the show, is like the girls versus the guys within the apartments, and they have like, they go through a lot of like funny moments together between the two of them. So
yeah, there is like a little bit of like competitive versusness that
like they're who's the better roommate,
that is like that is like very playful and really cute. And so I think that I think that it's like, it's always hard to say, because it's like, would people be able to say no, they didn't want
in that situation?
Like, not really. I don't know. I remember when
it's also weird because no one's locking their bathroom doors.
This reminds me of something that happened when I was going to high school at St. Thomas, and there was like this fad that sort of started. I think it was more like between like in like the popular kids, quote unquote, that they started. First of all, it was
pantsing people.
Yeah, so it first started off with like the fashion. Then there was sort of like this fad going on where people would wear like nice pajama pants to school.
I remember that.
And then people started pantsing each other because it was so easy.
Yeah.
And there were some people who were not wearing underwear, and so it started off as like being fine, and everyone who was part of it were in on it. But then like there were a few people who didn't want that to happen. And it happened to, and it became like an issue. And so it's sort of like, these things can be fun if it's within like a group of people who agree and have like a dynamic where that's okay. Yeah. And again, that like goes into like the nuances of consent, where it's sort of like consent has to be explicit, but also you can have relationships where you build a certain trust and things can be a little bit more... Like, so long as the relationship has built itself to a place where these things can be a little bit more open and a little bit more vague. Yeah. But there still has to be a back seat. Like, in the back seat, there always has to be a certain amount of trust and the ability to communicate, right?
All right. So then, next scene, basically, Phoebe tells Roger that her friends don't really like him. And then he has this kind of, like, freak out.
No, the next scene is they are sitting in the cafe, and Phoebe invites them all to Roger's having a dinner thing.
Oh, right, you're right. So then they all basically tell Phoebe that they hate Roger. Okay, next scene, we're in Chandler's apartment, and Chandler and Joey's apartment, And Joey's mom comes in, and she's like, I came to give you this, and she slaps him. Or slaps him, whatever, hits him, whatever it is. I want to say that Joey's mom's hair, as you were saying, is beautiful in this, and also I really love her outfit.
Yeah, which
we
didn't put in the
polls, but to me this was the best outfit.
Interesting. It's a coat with a scarf, you know that, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love fall outfits.
Yeah, me too. I'm totally.
This is more winter, but
yeah, and I think that the colors work really well with the character as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And anyways, and so then we've kind of already covered this quite a bit, but like the idea that like she's actually happy that her husband is having an affair because it means that he's like less angry. He seems to have somewhere to like expend his energy. He has a hobby, she says, and he now has been like treating her better because of it, which is like
unfortunate,
very weird, and a very weird dynamic. And like, but you know what? It's one of those things where like sometimes things work for people, you know, and like that's just it. This works for them. Okay, yes. So then we move into back to Central Perk, where Roger approaches Phoebe from behind, and he wraps his arm around her. Is that only the DVD version? No, I think.
Yeah, totally.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. And she panics, and she's like, don't ever, no. Which, like, makes me think of, like, okay, Phoebe, what kind of childhood trauma did you have in which you, like, feel uncomfortable with someone approaching you from behind? And you learn that she lived on the street, right? So I'm wondering if there was, like, an incident on the street in which someone, like, approached her from behind. And, like, so she's very, like, intense and freaked out by it. Anyways, and then she says that they don't really like you, that you're intense and creepy, which is like, it's one thing telling your partner that like your friends don't really like them, and it's another thing to tell your partner that your friends think they're intense and creepy.
Yeah, she has no social tact in this situation.
Yeah.
At all.
To be fair, he hasn't had any social tact either. Then he goes on to say, you guys have a dysfunctional group dynamic. Codependent, emotionally stunted. Define me. Love me. I need love.
You do it so well.
They do this moment where they, like, pan onto Phoebe's face while he's saying this. And she just, like, has this face. And it's so good. And it's this, like, moment of being like, yeah, this is done. like this relationship is over. Like, so awkward. Okay, so next, second to last scene, we're back in Monica's apartment. Joey's kind of debriefing with the friends, and he says that, like, his dad's gonna continue seeing Ronnie, and his mom's gonna continue to pretend she doesn't know about it. And then they all kind of have this moment where they're like, oh, I can't believe, like, in a few years, we're going to turn into them. Like, we're going to be these kind of people. Then Chandler says the line. He says, I'll either end up like an alcoholic blonde chasing after 20-year-old boys, or I'll end up like my mother. So this is the first line that we get in which it implies that Chandler's other parent, who's not his mom, is, well, it basically implies that his dad, because that's how they refer to him, is gay. So it's the first kind of snippet into that.
Yeah.
But it's also intense because he's basically saying that his dad is an alcoholic, and is chasing after young men, which is like a pretty intense line to say about your parent. And it's like very much breezed over, and everyone kind of laughs. And yeah, did you want to use this moment to segue into something that we're going to do, a bonus episode we're going to create?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I feel like everyone just sort of laughing and brushing it off really kind of implies as though, like, it's a known thing. Like, outside of, like, what we see into their lives, like, everyone is, like, has talked about this and is aware of Chandler's history and past. Mm-hmm. And so this will segue into talking about how we're going to do a sort of, like, bonus / not bonus episode on the documentary Disclosure. But essentially, Disclosure is a documentary that looks at queer and specifically trans representation in mainstream media over like the history of it, essentially. And especially it coming from the perspective of trans people, which is always important when you're going to talk about any subject, especially of like someone who's marginalized, to have the perspective of those people who are marginalized included. So when I brought this up to one of our new patrons, Sid, thank you, Sid, for being a patron. Did I already say this?
No.
Okay, good. Just making sure. Everyone, first, let's welcome Sid to being our patron, our first Smelly Cat patron.
Woohoo!
So Sid is going to be getting a sticker in the mail of our new podcast cover.
Yay!
But I was talking to Sid about us doing a disclosure episode. So essentially, we would, in the next couple of weeks, instead of having an episode released that is about an episode of Friends, we're going to do a little brief 1 week pause, and instead we're going to do a group watch of Disclosure that would be open to everyone. So normally our Netflix watch parties are just our Patreon subscribers, but this one we would do open to the public. Mm-hmm. So that you have someone to watch it with, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then we'd basically create an episode where we sort of like take what we learn and take the perspective of Disclosure and talk about Friends in like the entire 10 seasons.
But the idea is like to unpack or to unpack all of the transphobia in Friends over the course of the 10 seasons through the lens of Disclosure.
Yeah, and also like using what we learn in the documentary as like tools to help us as we move forward and continue to like open up and unpack these conversations around Chandler's parent. And just like the weird skewed portrayal that they have over the 10 seasons. Mm-hmm. And really having Disclosure as a foundation to help us, to assist us in that process. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that Sid was sort of like a little confused by the idea of us doing that, or like leery of it. So we're going to try it out, and then you guys are going to let us know how you feel about that, because if we are to continue on with our podcast past the first season, it would be interesting to maybe include some episodes like this when we come across like essential, like interesting media that we can use as a tool to like incorporate in our unpacking of this show that we love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So keep a lookout for that. And then I think we're also talking about moving around our Netflix watch party and how we're approaching like creating polls and stuff like that.
Okay, so we are going to start to rearrange the way in which we potentially do our watch parties, because we've realized that the way we kind of have it set up right now is that we ask you polls before we do the collective watch party, which we want to start doing the watch party and then ask you polls so that you don't feel like you have to watch the show twice in 1 week like we do.
Exactly. Yeah, like we watch it 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're thinking of switching over our watch party to Mondays, mm-hmm. and then that way you can tune in and watch, and then the polls will be posted up right after, and so you can answer the polls. And then we'll have, for those who subscribe to the Secret Closet episode, we're still going to record on Wednesday, and so the uncut version will be available on Wednesday evenings, and then from there our pivot level Patreon subscribers will have access to the
early release
of the edited version on Friday.
Ad-free.
Edited and ad-free. Yeah.
All right. So just to wrap up, the last scene, we see the Boobie Payback Express, which is now, now Joey goes to see Rachel in the shower, but it's actually Monica in the shower. And then Monica turns around and goes to see Joey in the shower, and it's actually Joey Sr. in the shower. And rather than screaming and being appalled as all the other friends have been doing, Joey's dad just goes, "Hello, dear."
Which is so cute.
It's so cute.
Like he's probably been like innocent. Watching them all week.
Yeah.
Like this silly thing. He's just so unfazed by it.
Yeah, he's just like, oh my god, kids. So funny.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
I just think it's unfortunate because I feel like Monica got like the shortest end of the stick here of like she lost twice. And then Chandler, he's the one that kind of like won. And I don't want to say it like in the sense of like you got to see someone's boobies, you won, but more in the sense that like he never like there's no
he never had to show his pee-pee.
He never had to show his pee-pee. There was no one got revenge on him.
Yeah.
And I think that that's hilarious.
All right, that is all, friends.
No, friends of friends.
Friends, have a wonderful, wonderful week. My name is Emily. You can find me on my Instagram at EmilyBYoga or on my website, www.emilybyoga.com. That's Emily with an I-E and not a Y.
And I'm Quinn. That's quinnkbrunet.com or on Instagram or on YouTube. And also, check out our new YouTube channel and subscribe for What the Phalange. And soon we're going to be getting our stuff up onto there.
Yeah. Oh, and for those who don't know, we have changed our Instagram page. So it is now not WT Phalange, but WT Phalange Podcast.
Yeah.
So make sure you check that out. And as always, leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe to become a Patreon. That would be great. Thanks.
See ya. Bye.
Keep deconstructing and diversifying the media that you consume. Bye.